What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new series talking about the things that no other business owners will talk about. We own brick and mortar gyms, we own a supplement company, we own a wine company, we own a charity, we own all this really cool stuff. And everyone goes, oh, it must be cool, it must be nice, blah, 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 blah. Well, in reality, being a business owner, especially brick and mortar, all it is getting kicked in the nuts day in and day out. That's what you do. You get kicked in the nuts, okay? So what we want this series to be about is what those nut kicks are and what you have to do to overcome them. And stay tuned because we'll answer the nut kicks in a later series of how that turned out, right? Like we'll bring up former nut kicks so that you can understand what it's like as we go through it, yada, yada, yada. So in today's Kick in the Nuts, episode 1, out the gate. Last week, we received a bill for $22,000 from one of our landlords. Okay, this bill was for soundproofing a wall in between us and our neighboring tenant. Now, here's the kicker. The tenant isn't in business. The tenant doesn't exist. It is drywall in the business. And I thought about pulling up the picture, but I don't want anybody to know which location it is or to deal with any blah, 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 blah. And just in case there's any legal issues, right? Like, this is just generic. I'm not talking crap. I'm just telling everybody what happened. So basically, we get this bill. And they said, you have 14 days to pay half of it for soundproofing on a wall. I don't know if you guys have ever gotten contracting or talked with commercial contractors or dealt with anything like soundproofing. It does not cost $22,000 to soundproof one wall. Okay, that's the first problem. Second problem, the tenant doesn't exist. So to give you a little backstory, we have tenants on either side of us, right? So we're the second biggest tenant in this plaza, right? There's a Publix, and then there's us, and then there's a bunch of little guys, right? So basically in our fitness facility, we are the second biggest swing and weenie, right? Like that's just what we are. So we're never late with payments. We're always on time. We never have any issues, yada, yada, yada. About a year ago, we got a complaint from our nail salon next door. And so what we did is we said, hey, you know what? We'll fix it. So we brought in our sound people. We brought in our techs. We brought in some contractors, and we fixed the issue. Haven't heard a thing in a year. Okay? Now, this is what's crazy. So they sent us this bill. And we're talking back and forth, and we're talking to our lawyers, and we're talking to their lawyer, and blah, 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 blah. And basically, this is their excuse, is they had a potential tenant that came in the space over a year ago and wouldn't lease it because they could hear our music through the wall, even though our business operation hours are not doing normal business operation hours, okay? So they tried to say that the reason that they wouldn't lease the space was solely because of our sound. So now, this is where this gets tricky, because if you were, I don't know, a half-decent salesperson, you would do this thing called overcoming an objection, which every salesperson who's even remotely decent does. But since it takes literally one test to become a realtor, right? Like if that, like I'm pretty sure they just give that thing away at Sam's Club, right? I'm pretty sure you can get your realtor's license at Sam's Club at these days. Jesus. Seems like everybody and their mother, it's like the new, never mind, I'm not going to go into that. But basically, everybody and their mother in Florida became a realtor over the last 3 years because of the housing boom, right? And because of everybody moving down here because we're the only free state in the country. So basically, needless to say, this Yahoo obviously had no idea what they were doing. And instead of trying to overcome the objection or say, well, hey, if this is the right space, let's see what the landlord could do. Let's talk to these people. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what the hours of operation are. Let's find a way, if you really like this space, to see if we can make this work with the current tenant. Which if they would have came and said, hey, we want to do this, this, and this, we know that this might be an issue. If if you hire a contractor, we hire a contractor, we get 2 different bids and we go through it, would you be willing to pay half to soundproof this wall? That's a way better way to get a tenant to part with some of their money than to just send them a bill for a tenant that doesn't exist. So basically what they did was they tried to say, well, this tenant wouldn't buy the space because of your sound over a year ago, even though since that time we have fixed the sound issue and we have not received a single complaint since. Okay? So our lawyers have gone back and forth. I called the property manager. I'm talking to him. And basically, they're just a-holes, right? Like that's just what they're doing. They're just being a-holes. Like there's no logical, when you use your logic brain, this is the situation. And I want you to think about this. You have a tenant that does not exist. They are not operating their business. It is concrete floors and drywall. There is no business being operated inside of there. Then you're telling me that that tenant That the tenant that doesn't exist, that doesn't operate business, that has no ability to complain because they do not operate hours of business. You're telling me that that tenant now is going to need soundproofing on their wall. Okay. Now, if you had to rip down a wall and soundproof everything and then rebuild a wall and paint it and do a whole bunch of like display work and everything else, sure, I could see a $22,000 total price tag. Maybe at that point. The space is empty. So you preemptively built a soundproofed wall for this tenant for a problem that doesn't exist, and then decided to try to get me to pay the bill. Now, for those of you who don't know how leases work, okay, normally in leases, there's a lot of clauses in there, and one of them is a sound clause, right? And so we are very aware of that. We edit ours in every single lease to give us the most benefit of the doubt. It is written very clearly that basically, if there's any complaints, we will, handle the complaint, and should it become an issue, blah, 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 we will work out a solution amicably with the landlord and the other tenant. Well, we haven't been able to do that per our lease because they don't exist, nor have they been able to complain because the problem doesn't exist. So now the property manager basically, without telling me, because he doesn't know I'm really good at asking questions to get what I want, he basically said, well, I can't talk to you anymore, because he realized I had already baited him into giving me the answers to the questions that I needed. So basically, it's the landlord's lawyers that want to go do this, and it's versus our lawyers who want to go do this. And if you guys don't know how lawyers work, basically they charge you $500 an hour each to go play golf and figure out what they're going to do with this case, right? So what we're going to do, and this is what we're hoping, is that, we basically told them, hey, listen, this doesn't make any sense. Why would I preemptively give you money? If that's the case, think about what that would mean, right? If they win this case, think about, like, I'm going to start this business tomorrow. I'm going to go find an attorney and a general contractor, and we're going to go to every single plaza in the state of Florida that has a vacancy in it. We're going to go in there. Once they lease it, we're going to preemptively build walls that are soundproofed, hand the other tenants the bill without telling them or notifying them or saying there's a problem or anything, expecting them to pay half, jack up the charges, and then I'll keep 30% as the finder's fee and they can split the rest. That's a multi-8-figure business tomorrow, in case any of you need an idea. Why? Because it's blatantly wrong. You cannot do that. But this is the stuff that business owners don't talk about. That happens every single day, okay? When you own brick and mortar businesses and when you do anything, basically every single day, someone's going to make you a sandwich that's made out of poop, okay? They're going to make you a poop sandwich. And it's your job as the business owner every day to open up the piece of bread, pour a little hot sauce on that Sammy, close the lid, and take a big bite. You finish the sandwich every day, and the next morning, you sit down, you put your napkin in your shirt, you get your fork and your spoon, and you say, where's today's sandwich? And that's owning a business. Hope you enjoyed episode 1. Tune in to a future episode where we solve this problem and we tell you what ended up happening. And whether it's obscene or whether it's logical and makes sense and fair, we will give you the answer in later episodes. So, hope you guys like this first one. Thank you so much for watching. We will let you know how the $22,000 soundproofing wall bill that makes no sense for a tenant that doesn't exist plays out. See you next time.